On Saturday afternoon, December 13, 2025, during Brown's finals period, gunfire erupted inside a first-floor classroom in the Barus Holley Engineering and Physics building, where students had gathered for a study session ahead of a final economics exam. 2 students were killed and 9 others were wounded. Brown issued an emergency alert at 4:22 p.m. warning of an active shooter near Barus and Holley and instructing the campus to shelter in place, lock doors, silence phones, stay hidden, and follow hostile intruder guidance, while police and university public safety rushed in and a large law enforcement response began to form around College Hill. As the first chaotic hours unfolded, university leaders told families that the suspected shooter was still at large. They also acknowledged that at one point they were informed someone had been taken into custody, but that individual was later determined not to be the shooting suspect, leaving the community bracing for a prolonged lockdown as investigators searched for the attacker. Through Saturday evening and into the night, Brown's emergency updates emphasized that the campus remained on lockdown and that movement across campus had to stop while officers established a perimeter and began escorting people out of certain non-residential buildings to safer locations outside the active police area. In the late night hours, Brown confirmed that 9 members of the community transported to local hospitals were students, and that the university had lost 2 students to the shooting. The initial medical updates described multiple students in critical or critical but stable condition, with at least 1 student treated and released. The lockdown and evacuation stretched through the early morning, and by Sunday, December 14, Brown reported that thousands of students had been moved overnight, some through an evacuation site at the Olney Margolis Athletic Center and others into local hotels, while police continued to restrict access to areas still considered active crime scenes. By 5:42 a.m. on Sunday, Providence police advised Brown that the campus-wide shelter-in-place order had ended, though significant police activity and restricted areas remained, and Brown cautioned that anyone leaving buildings inside the investigation perimeter might not be allowed back in. Later that morning, President Christina Paxson told the community that police had identified and detained a person of interest at that point in the investigation and that many hospitalized victims were stable, even as the university prepared for the emotional and logistical reality of students wanting to leave campus. The same morning, Provost Francis J. Doyle III announced that all remaining undergraduate, graduate, and medical classes, exams, and end-of-semester assessments for fall 2025 would not proceed as scheduled, explicitly prioritizing safety and well-being over continuing normal academic operations. In the days that followed, however, investigators publicly indicated that the early custody lead did not resolve the case, and the search for the gunman continued. As the manhunt expanded beyond campus, federal authorities joined local and state investigators in pushing out public appeals for help identifying the shooter. On December 15, the FBI, working with Providence Police and Rhode Island State Police, announced a reward of up to $50,000 for information leading to the identification, arrest, and conviction of the person responsible, describing the suspect as a male about 5 feet 8 inches with a stocky build and urging anyone with relevant photos, video, or tips to submit them through official channels. At the same time, investigators released surveillance clips and a video timeline intended to show the movements of a masked person of interest in the hours surrounding the attack, while reporting also underscored a key challenge. Even though Brown officials noted the presence of many cameras campus-wide, the shooting occurred in an older portion of the engineering building with few, if any, cameras, and investigators believed the shooter may have entered and exited through a door facing a residential street, factors that helped the attacker avoid being clearly captured on Brown's camera network. Inside the university, grief became the dominant reality. On December 16, President Paxson publicly identified the 2 students who were killed, Ella Cook, a sophomore from Mountain Brook, Alabama, and Muhammad Aziz Umerzakov, a first-year student in his first semester at Brown and a U.S. dual citizen originally from Uzbekistan, and shared biographical details meant to honor their lives and anchor a traumatized community in remembrance. She wrote that most of the other victims remained hospitalized in stable condition, and she outlined support resources while the university and student leaders began planning memorials and community gatherings to take place after winter break. The investigation's most consequential new turn arrived near the end of the week. By Thursday, December 18, police told Reuters they had identified a suspect in the Brown shooting, while also investigating a potential connection to the killing of MIT professor Nuno F.G. Loureiro, who was fatally shot in his Brookline, Massachusetts home 2 days after the Brown attack. Reuters reported that a law enforcement operation involving SWAT teams took place at a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, believed to be linked to the investigation. The Associated Press likewise reported that authorities were looking into a possible link between the Brown mass shooting and Loureiro's murder, citing people familiar with the matter, while emphasizing that the Brown attacker remained masked in released footage and that no arrest had been announced publicly. As of Friday, December 19, 2025, the public-facing posture of the case remains that the suspect is still at large. Key details, including motive and the suspect's identity, have not been fully released publicly, and investigators continue to urge anyone with relevant information, footage, or tips to come forward through official channels while the campus and city try to regain a sense of safety after a week defined by fear, loss, and unanswered questions.